Hi everyone, let's have a real conversation today. I'm going to tell you some truths. And when I'm done, you're going to look at yourself a little differently, but you're also going to see your value in a way you never before. Let me tell you something, ladies. There's one thing I see happening time and time again, and I have to address it because it's affecting you in ways that you might not even realize. It's this whole idea of settling for less than you deserve. I see so many women out here, beautiful, talented, powerful women, compromising and lowering their standards just to be with somebody. And let me tell you, when you settle for less than you deserve, you're not just settling for a man who's not worthy of you. You're telling yourself that you're not worthy of more. That's a big mistake. You were not put on this earth to shrink yourself down or to make yourself smaller just so someone else can feel comfortable. You are here to shine. You're here to live fully, to love deeply, to take up space, and to be unapologetically you. But when you settle, you dim that light. You put yourself in a position where you're constantly fighting to get the love and respect that should have been given to you in the first place. Let's break it down. When you settle for a man who doesn't treat you like the queen that you are, you're basically saying to yourself, well, maybe this is all I'm worth. Maybe this is all I can get. That's a lie. You are worth so much more than that, and deep down you know it. But when you choose to settle, you're telling your subconscious mind, this is all I deserve. And you start accepting behavior that should never have been allowed in the first place. Here's the thing, when you're with a man who doesn't respect you, who doesn't support you, who doesn't show you the love you need, you are eroding your own sense of self-worth. And here's why. Your standards shape how you see yourself. If you start lowering those standards, it means you start undervaluing your own needs, your own desires, and your own happiness. You start convincing yourself that you're okay with being treated less than your best. But let me tell you, nothing is more dangerous than lowering your standards for the sake of holding on to a man who doesn't recognize your value. Now, I get it. I know why some of you might settle. We all have moments where we start to doubt ourselves. We start thinking, maybe I won't find anyone better. Maybe I'm asking for too much. But let me tell you something. You're not asking for too much. You're asking for what you deserve. And if a man can't meet those standards, then he's not the right one for you. Listen, no man should ever make you feel like you're too much or that you're asking for too much. You are not too much. You are just the right amount. You deserve someone who sees you, who appreciates you, who lifts you up, and who walks alongside you. But if you're always settling for someone who is below your standards, you're just creating a pattern of accepting less and less until you completely forget what it feels like to get the best. And here's another thing that happens when you settle, you end up wasting time. Time that could have been spent building the life you deserve. Time that could have been spent waiting for the man who's truly right for you. Settling leads to frustration, to bitterness, and to resentment. And when you're holding on to something that's not fulfilling you, it starts to wear you down. You start to lose sight of what's really important. Your dreams, your passions, your future, they all take a back seat because you're spending your time fighting for something that isn't fighting for you. Now, I know it's not easy. Trust me, I know. It's hard to walk away from something that you've invested in, something that you've hoped for, something that you've imagined could work. But what's harder? Staying in a situation that's draining you, holding on to a man who doesn't truly see you, or walking away and finding the life and the love that you deserve. There's no greater feeling than knowing that you have standards and that you're not willing to settle for less than what you deserve. There's power in knowing what you want and what you're not willing to accept. The truth is, when you stop settling, you make room for the right man to come into your life. You make room for someone who will appreciate everything you bring to the table. And that's when the real magic happens. When you stop accepting the bare minimum, you start opening doors to something greater. You start attracting the man who will match your energy, who will value you for exactly who you are, and who will love you in the way you deserve. Think about it like this. You wouldn't walk into a store and pay top dollar for a product if you knew it wasn't going to last. You wouldn't settle for a car that doesn't run well or a house that isn't up to your standards. So why would you settle for a man who doesn't treat you with the same level of respect and care? You are a prize. You are worth every bit of effort, every bit of patience, and every bit of love that comes your way. Don't forget that. It's time to stop lowering your standards to fit into someone else's world. It's time to raise the bar and demand what you know you deserve. When you do that, you're going to find that the right man will step up. He won't be intimidated by your strength, your independence, or your standards. He'll respect them. And he'll know that he's lucky to be with someone like you. So stop settling. Stop accepting less than you deserve. When you do, you'll start to see the power of what happens when you finally start to believe in your own worth. Let me tell you something else, and I want you to really listen to this one, ladies. There's something else I see way too often that absolutely kills your value in front of a man. It's this idea of losing yourself in a relationship. Now, I'm not talking about compromise, because relationships take compromise. But what I'm talking about is losing the essence of who you are. When you forget who you are, what you want, and what you need, that's when you stop being valuable, not just to him, but to yourself. You've seen it before, haven't you? A woman starts out strong, independent, confident, and clear on what she wants in life. She's chasing her goals. She's going after her dreams, and she knows her worth. But then she gets into a relationship, and suddenly she's not the same person anymore. She starts molding herself around the man she's with. She starts to lose sight of her passions, her dreams, and even the friendships that used to matter. And before she knows it, she's completely forgotten who she was before he came into the picture. This right here is a dangerous thing. When you lose yourself in a relationship, you're not just giving up your independence. You're giving up your identity. And let me tell you, a man is never going to value a woman who doesn't value herself first. When you lose yourself for the sake of keeping a man happy, you're not building a foundation for anything healthy. You're building a house on quicksand. Listen to me, you were created to stand out. You were created with your own strengths, your own dreams, and your own path to walk. No man should ever make you feel like you need to abandon who you are to fit into his life. The right man is going to embrace who you are, your flaws, your strengths, your ambitions. He's not going to ask you to become someone else just to make him feel comfortable. If he does, you need to walk away. When you lose yourself, you start to compromise on things that matter to you. Maybe you stop hanging out with your friends because he doesn't like them. Maybe you stop pursuing your career or your passion because he thinks it's too much. Or maybe you start dressing differently or changing the way you speak to fit into his world. Now, don't get me wrong. There's nothing wrong with making adjustments in a relationship. Compromise is key, but losing yourself is a whole different thing. It's about erasing the parts of you that make you unique. And the worst part is, when you lose yourself like that, you begin to feel like you're constantly playing a role. You're acting. You're pretending to be someone you're not, and that's exhausting. And let me tell you something else. It's not attractive. Men can sense when a woman is being fake, even if they don't admit it. When you're not being real with yourself, you're not going to be real with him either. And that, my friends, is what leads to problems down the road. But here's the thing you need to understand. You cannot give your best to anyone else if you haven't taken care of yourself first. Think about it. When you lose yourself, you stop taking care of the things that matter to you. You stop working on the dreams that are important to you, the things that keep you fulfilled. And the more you lose those things, the more you start to feel unfulfilled, and eventually you start to resent the very relationship that caused you to lose your way. That's the sad reality. When you start losing yourself, you end up resenting the relationship. You start blaming him for things that were actually your fault. You start feeling like he's the one who made you change, when the truth is, you allowed it to happen. You gave up parts of yourself and now you're feeling lost. Don't let that happen to you. Don't let someone else have that kind of power over who you are. Remember this, when you walk into a relationship, you should still be you. Your passions, your dreams, your career goals, and your friendships, none of that should be thrown away for the sake of keeping a man around. You have to keep those things alive. The right man will appreciate that. The right man will see how ambitious you are, how driven you are, and he will support you in becoming the best version of yourself. And if he doesn't, then that's not the right man for you. Now, I know it's hard. I know sometimes the lines between what's compromise and what's losing yourself can get blurred. It's not always clear where to draw the line. But let me make this simple. If you're changing in a way that makes you feel uncomfortable, if you're sacrificing your happiness, your dreams, or your integrity just to make someone else happy, then you've crossed the line and you have to stop. You have to take a step back and ask yourself, am I losing myself in this relationship? When you're true to yourself, that's when you attract the right man. When you're living your life authentically, being the person you were meant to be, that's when the right man will show up, because he's going to recognize your value, your strength, and your independence. He won't try to take that away from you. He'll encourage it. He'll help you grow, not shrink. The truth is, when you're whole on your own, when you know exactly who you are and what you stand for, that's when you'll find a man who truly values you. You're never going to be satisfied with someone who doesn't appreciate you at your best. And you don't need to lose yourself in order to get his attention. In fact, if you do, you're setting yourself up for disappointment. So ladies, I want you to remember this: never, ever lose yourself for the sake of anyone else. Not for a man, not for anyone. Stay true to who you are. Hold on to your dreams, your passions, and the things that make you who you are. Because when you do, you will attract the right kind of love. The kind that appreciates the real you, not some version of you that you created to fit into someone else's world. Let's get into another one of those things that kills your value in front of a man. And this one is so crucial because it's something that a lot of us struggle with, whether we admit it or not. It's self-respect. Now, self-respect isn't just about how you carry yourself. It's about how you treat yourself and how you let others treat you. If you don't respect yourself, you can bet that no one else is going to either. And I want to be clear. This is not about being perfect. It's about knowing your worth, setting boundaries, and demanding to be treated in a way that reflects the value you have. See, a lot of times we get so caught up in wanting to be loved, wanting to be wanted, that we forget to ask ourselves, do I respect myself enough to say no when things don't feel right? Because let me tell you, respect isn't just about the good times. It's about the tough times too. It's about the moments when you need to stand up for yourself and demand the respect you deserve. When you let a man treat you any old way, when you allow him to disrespect your boundaries, you are sending a message that you don't value yourself enough to stand firm in your worth. And if you don't respect yourself, you're teaching him not to either. One of the biggest mistakes I see women make is this: they allow themselves to be treated poorly over and over again in the name of love. You know what I'm talking about. You let a man get away with things you know deep down you shouldn't tolerate. Maybe it's him not valuing your time. Maybe it's him speaking to you in ways that are hurtful, or him making promises he never keeps. But for some reason, you keep accepting it. And here's the truth. Every time you accept less than you deserve, you weaken your own sense of self-respect. And when that happens, you start to lose your power. Listen, self-respect is not something that comes automatically. It's something you have to work on daily. It's about taking a stand for yourself, not just when it's easy, but when it's hard. You have to learn to say no, even when saying no might make him upset, even when it might make things uncomfortable. You have to know that your worth is not up for negotiation. And when you start saying no to the things that don't serve you, you begin to demand more from the people around you, especially from the man you're with. Now, I'm not saying that you need to be tough all the time or that you have to be rigid and unapproachable. What I'm saying is that you have to treat yourself with dignity. Don't let anyone walk all over you. Don't let anyone take advantage of your kindness, and don't let anyone make you feel like you're less than. And this is key. When you respect yourself, you set the tone for how others will treat you. If you set the bar high, people will rise to meet it. And if you allow yourself to be disrespected, people will pick up on that and start treating you in ways that are beneath you. But here's the thing that gets me. It's so easy to lose sight of self-respect when you're trying to make a relationship work. You start thinking, well, if I just let him get away with this one thing, maybe he'll change. Or if I keep being understanding, maybe he'll eventually see how much I care. And that's where the danger lies. You're teaching him that his behavior is okay, even when it's not. And here's the truth: people will only treat you the way you allow them to treat you. So if you're accepting disrespect, you're allowing it. If you're letting a man cross boundaries, you're teaching him that those boundaries don't matter. Now, I know it's hard. I know it feels tough when you're emotionally invested and you don't want to rock the boat. But let me tell you this, you don't have to sacrifice your self-respect to keep someone around. And if a man truly loves you, he will respect your boundaries. He will value your time. He will care about your feelings and your needs. But when you compromise your self-respect for the sake of holding on to someone, you're setting yourself up for a life of frustration, bitterness, and disappointment. Self-respect means understanding that you are not an option. You are the priority. You deserve the same love, care, and attention you give. And when you hold yourself to those standards, you start to attract a man who sees you in the same light. He will understand that you're not here to settle for anything less than what you deserve. And he will be willing to put in the effort to match your energy. And let me make this clear: self-respect also means respecting your own time. You're not here to wait around for someone who can't make time for you. You're not here to keep giving your love to someone who doesn't appreciate it. You have better things to do with your time. And the moment you realize that is the moment you start to truly respect yourself. You don't need to wait around for someone to come around. You don't need to beg for attention or love. When you respect yourself, you know your worth, and you don't chase after someone who can't meet you where you are. One of the most empowering things you can do is set clear boundaries. And it's not just about setting them and enforcing them once. It's about making it a habit to stand up for yourself consistently, no matter what. If someone oversteps, you call them out on it. If they do it again, you call them out again. You don't let things slide, and you don't allow disrespect to go unchecked. Self-respect is non-negotiable. It's a lifestyle and it's a choice. And when you make that choice, the right man will respect it. He will appreciate you for being strong, for being clear, and for knowing exactly who you are and what you will and will not accept. He will admire the fact that you value yourself enough to stand firm in your boundaries. And guess what? When you carry yourself that way, when you show that you won't tolerate disrespect, you attract the kind of man who will give you the respect and love you deserve. Remember this: respect yourself, and others will have no choice but to do the same. But if you don't demand respect, you're going to keep attracting men who will treat you like an option instead of a priority. So hold your head high, know your worth, and never settle for less than you deserve. Now, let me tell you about one more thing that will absolutely kill your value in front of a man. And it's something that I think a lot of women overlook or just don't want to admit. And that is settling for crumbs instead of holding out for the full course meal. I'm talking about those relationships where you're getting just enough to keep you hanging on, but never really getting everything that you deserve. You know what I'm talking about? The half love, the kind of treatment that's just good enough to keep you around, but never quite enough to make you feel whole. When you settle for crumbs, you're not just selling yourself short. You're telling yourself that you don't deserve the whole thing. You're telling yourself that a little bit of love, a little bit of attention, A little bit of care is enough. But let me tell you something, you deserve more than crumbs. You deserve someone who sees you as the full meal, not just a snack on the side. You deserve someone who's going to give you everything, not just the parts that are easy or convenient for him. It's easy to get caught up in this, especially when you're emotionally invested. You start to tell yourself that what you're getting is enough because, hey, at least he's giving you something, right? But that's the trap. It's a dangerous trap because over time, you start to convince yourself that this is all you can get. You start to think that this half love is the best you're going to get, and you start to make excuses for his behavior. You tell yourself, well, he's just busy. That's why he doesn't text me back right away. Or, hey, he's going through a lot right now, so that's why he doesn't make time for me. But let me tell you, if a man really wants to be with you, he'll make time for you no matter what's going on in his life. When you settle for crumbs, you're accepting less than what you deserve. And you're doing it because you're afraid that if you ask for more, if you demand the full course, you'll lose him. But here's the thing, if you're afraid to ask for what you deserve, then you're already losing. You're already teaching him that it's okay to give you less, and trust me, that's not something you want to do. Because when you allow yourself to be satisfied with crumbs, you start to lose sight of what real love looks like. You start to accept inconsistency, and you start thinking that the bare minimum is the best you can expect. But you deserve better than that. Let me tell you something. You are worthy of being loved fully, not just in bits and pieces. You're worthy of the kind of love that is constant, the kind of love that shows up for you day in and day out. And when you start believing that, when you stop accepting crumbs, that's when you start to make room for the right kind of love to come into your life. But if you keep settling for less, you're going to keep attracting the same kind of energy, the kind that doesn't value you, the kind that takes you for granted. Think about it like this. If you're hungry and someone offers you a cracker, but you know there's a full meal waiting for you, why would you settle for the cracker? You know you deserve the whole meal. You know you're worth more than that. But a lot of times we settle because we don't want to wait. We're afraid that if we don't take what's being offered to us right now, we might end up with nothing. But let me tell you this, if a man is truly right for you, he will serve you the full meal, no questions asked. He will give you his time, his attention, his love, and his respect. Not just when it's convenient for him, but consistently, without hesitation. Now, this doesn't mean you're going to get everything you want from the very beginning. Relationships take work and they take time. But what I'm saying is, you shouldn't have to beg for the basics. You shouldn't have to chase someone down to get their attention. You shouldn't have to make excuses for why they're not showing up for you the way you need them to. If you're not getting what you need and you're constantly settling for less, then it's time to ask yourself why. Why are you accepting crumbs when you know you deserve more? When you're constantly accepting the bare minimum, you're telling yourself that you don't have enough faith in yourself to wait for something better. You're telling yourself that you're not worthy of the whole meal, and that's a dangerous thought to entertain. You are worthy of more. You are worthy of a man who's going to show up for you, who's going to invest in you, and who's going to love you fully, consistently, and without hesitation. And let me tell you something, when you start to believe that, when you start to act like you believe you deserve the full meal, you'll stop settling for crumbs. And when you stop settling for crumbs, you start attracting the right kind of love. But here's the thing, you have to know your worth first. If you don't see your own value, then you're going to keep accepting whatever comes your way, even if it's not what you truly want or need. You have to get to a place where you know deep down that you deserve the best. You have to get to a place where you're okay being single for a little while, because you know that when the right man comes along, he's going to give you everything you deserve. And that starts with you. It starts with you setting the standard for what you will and won't accept. So let me ask you this. Are you willing to settle for crumbs, or are you ready for the full course meal? Are you willing to accept less than you deserve because you're afraid of being alone, or are you ready to hold out for the love that truly fulfills you? You deserve the full course. Never forget that. And when you start acting like it, the right man will step up and give you just that. All right? Let's dive into another one of those things that'll kill your value in front of a man. And it's a big one. I'm talking about being overly available. Now, I know this one's tough for a lot of people, but let me tell you something. When you're constantly dropping everything for someone, when you're always available, always on call, it sends the wrong message. And I don't mean the wrong message in the sense that you're being nice or caring, because we all know you're trying to be kind, you're trying to be loving. But here's the thing, when you're always available, you make yourself too easy to take for granted. Think about it. If you're always the one there, no matter what, whenever he calls, whenever he needs something, no matter how he treats you, well, then you've just set the standard. You've taught him that he can get you whenever he wants. You've taught him that he doesn't have to put in effort because you'll always be there, no questions asked. And here's the truth: a man values what he has to work for. If he doesn't have to work to get your attention, if he doesn't have to work to earn your time, then what do you think that says about your value to him? It's human nature. We value things that are scarce. We appreciate things that require effort and attention. So when you're constantly available, you're basically making yourself scarce in his eyes. And if he doesn't have to put any effort in, why would he? He's getting everything he wants without lifting a finger. And that's not the kind of relationship you want. You want a relationship where both people are invested, where both people are working for each other, not one person doing all the work while the other just takes and takes. Let me be clear. This isn't about playing games. It's not about pretending you're too busy or trying to make him chase you just for the sake of it. What I'm talking about is balance. It's about having your own life, your own interests, and your own priorities. It's about not putting everything on hold just because he calls, because when you make him your entire world, when you make him your focus all the time, you lose sight of your own worth. And if you lose sight of that, so will he. Now, I know you might be thinking, but I love him. I want to be there for him. What's wrong with showing that I care? And there's absolutely nothing wrong with showing you care. Love is all about showing up for each other, being there when it counts, supporting one another. But there's a line, and that line is when being available becomes a sacrifice of your own time, your own needs, your own boundaries. You can't pour from an empty cup. If you're always giving, always available, and never taking time for yourself, you're eventually going to burn out. And when you burn out, you stop being the best version of yourself. And that's when your value starts to fade, not just in his eyes, but in your own. Here's something you need to understand. When you make yourself too available, you make it easy for him to take you for granted. You give up your power, your time, your energy without making him appreciate it. When a man sees that he can always count on you without making any effort in return, you lose the spark. You lose the mystery. You lose the excitement that comes with someone putting in the effort to get to know you, to understand you, to earn your time. And that's a dangerous game to play, because the moment that effort stops, you're left with nothing. Now, let's flip the script for a second. Imagine if you made yourself just a little less available. Imagine if you started taking time for yourself, doing the things that fulfill you, nurturing your friendships, and pursuing your passions. What would happen? I'll tell you what would happen. He'd have to work a little harder to get your time. He'd have to put in the effort. And that's when you start to see his true intentions. When a man has to work for your time, when he has to show you that you matter, he starts to appreciate you more. And that's when you start feeling valued, respected, and seen for the woman you are. But this doesn't mean you have to be rude or ignore him or act uninterested. It just means you have to prioritize yourself. It means you have to make sure that you're not dropping everything just to be available to him whenever he calls. You need to maintain your sense of independence and show him that your life is full, your time is valuable, and you're not just sitting around waiting for him to show up. Think about it like this. If you were running a business, would you just give away your product for free to everyone who asked? Of course not. You'd make them work for it, make them see the value in what you're offering. Your time, your attention, your love, they're the same thing. They have value. And just like you wouldn't give away your product for nothing, you shouldn't be giving away your time and energy without receiving the same level of effort in return. And this is not about playing hard to get. It's about respecting yourself. It's about creating space for yourself so you don't lose who you are in the process of trying to please someone else. When you have your own life, your own routine, your own goals, it makes you more interesting. It makes you more attractive. And when he sees that, he'll want to be part of that life you're building. He'll want to be a part of something bigger than just himself. And that's when he will appreciate you for who you are, not just for what you give him. So here's the bottom line. Don't make yourself so available that you lose your value. Don't give up your time, your energy, your space just to be at someone's beck and call. You are valuable and your time is precious. You deserve someone who's going to earn your attention, who's going to appreciate you for all that you bring to the table. And when you start showing him that your time is not something to be taken for granted, that's when you start demanding the respect you deserve. Remember, you're not a convenience, you're a priority. And don't let anyone treat you like you're anything less. Now, let's talk about the final thing that can really hurt your value in front of a man, and that is losing your sense of independence. I'm talking about the kind of independence where you forget who you are outside of the relationship. You start letting everything revolve around him, his needs, his feelings, his world. But here's the truth. When you lose yourself in a relationship, when you stop being your own person and start being all about him, you stop being the woman that he was first attracted to. Think about it. When you first met, you were this strong, independent woman with your own life, your own goals, your own interests. You had things you were passionate about, places you wanted to go, dreams you were working toward. That's what drew him to you in the first place. But somewhere along the way, you might have started making compromises, maybe slowly at first, and then one day you woke up and realized that everything you were doing was for him or with him in mind. You started giving up parts of yourself to fit into his world, to fit into his schedule, to make him happy. You started putting aside your own goals, your own desires, just to keep the peace, just to make sure he was content. But here's what happens when you lose that independence. You lose your power. When you give up your own identity, when you stop being the woman you were before the relationship, you stop being the woman who had value, who had her own sense of self-worth. You start to rely on him for everything, your happiness, your sense of purpose, your supremacy, your sense of identity. And that's dangerous because the moment you stop being the woman he fell in love with, the moment you stop being strong and independent, you stop being attractive. Now, I'm not saying you shouldn't care about your relationship or that you shouldn't want to nurture it. Relationships take effort and commitment, and yes, you're going to sacrifice things here and there for the sake of the relationship. But what you should never sacrifice is your sense of self. You should never lose sight of who you are outside of the relationship. If you're not careful, you'll start losing yourself in trying to please him, in trying to keep him happy. And that's when things start to fall apart. When you're independent, when you're strong in your own right, that's what makes you attractive. That's what keeps the spark alive in a relationship. You're not just there to fulfill his needs. You're there because you complement each other. You bring something to the table, and he brings something to the table. It's about two people coming together, both with their own lives, their own passions, and their own identities, and building something together. It's not about one person completely losing themselves and the other person doing all the taking. And here's the kicker. When you lose yourself in a relationship, you also lose respect. Now, I'm not talking about respect in the sense that he's treating you badly or that he's not appreciative of you. What I'm saying is that when you stop being independent, when you start putting yourself second all the time, you send the message that you don't value yourself enough. Maintain your own life, your own goals, and your own happiness. And let me tell you something, a man who truly respects you will respect your individuality, your ambition, and your ability to stand on your own 2 feet. When you maintain that independence, when you keep pursuing your own goals, your own passions, you keep your own identity intact, you keep that fire inside you that he was first drawn to. You keep that sense of mystery, that sense of strength, that sense of confidence. And when he sees that you're still the woman you were before you got into this relationship, that you haven't lost sight of who you are, that's when he starts to value you even more. A man wants to be with a woman who has her own life, her own purpose, her own sense of identity. He doesn't want to be with someone who just sits around waiting for him to make her feel whole. Now, don't get me wrong. There's nothing wrong with being a partner, with being supportive, with giving love and attention to your man. But you've got to balance that with your own needs and desires. You've got to make sure that you're not constantly putting your own life on the back burner just to focus on his. You've got to ask yourself, what am I losing in the process? What am I giving up in order to make him happy? And is it worth it? It's easy to get caught up in the idea that love means putting the other person first. That love means sacrificing everything for the relationship. But the truth is, the best relationships are built on mutual respect, where both people bring their own strengths to the table. If you're always giving, always sacrificing, always putting his needs ahead of yours, you're not allowing him to see who you really are. You're not allowing him to see the woman who is strong, who is independent, who is driven. And that's a woman worth fighting for. So let me ask you this. Are you still the same person you were when you first got into this relationship? Are you still pursuing your own goals, your own dreams, your own passions, or have you lost sight of all that in the process of trying to make him happy? It's time to take a step back and ask yourself these tough questions. Because when you stop being the woman you were, when you stop being strong, independent, and focused on your own purpose, you lose your value. Remember, a relationship should complement your life, not complete it. You don't need a man to make you whole. You are already whole. And when you bring that whole, independent, strong woman to the table, that's when you will truly attract the love, the respect, and the relationship that you deserve. That's how you keep your value intact.